Today on AeroTime, we are meeting the President and CEO of APS, Dan Colbert. Dan spent the first half of his 30-year career with GE, starting on the engineering training program with their aerospace business. In the years since then, he has gained experience in a number of major businesses and sectors, but was always destined to return to aviation. He is a University of Illinois graduate, and today he runs the global leader in aircraft propeller system maintenance services, APS. The company was founded in 1953 with just 5 employees, servicing the US Midwest's general aviation community. Today, APS operates from their 46,000 square foot facility in Lake Zurich, Illinois. It's just 30 miles from Chicago O'Hare International Airport. The team of technical staff boast over 500 years of combined aviation experience, and they use modern technology to perform all critical maintenance processes under the same roof. Dan, great to see you here on AeroTime today.
Richard, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be part of the interview.
So Dan, you have over 30 years experience that started on the engineering training program at GE's aerospace business. You've done various other things over the years, not always in aviation, but was this sector always in your heart?
Yes, I think so. The opportunity to be in a technology-driven business that's global in nature, serving very diverse international communities, and having a chance to really provide excellent customer service to just a wide range of end users has always been appealing to me.
And this year, you're heading up APS, which is celebrating its 70th anniversary. It's got a long and rich history, which I've been reading into, starting with those roots in general aviation, as I mentioned. So tell us the story of APS.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. It's really exciting when you think about a business that's sustained itself for 70 years and grown over the time. It started post-World War II as a small general aviation shop and grew sporadically over the years. And then in the mid 90s, I would say that the prior owners really made a push to branch out into the regional turboprop space, and they became very closely aligned with Hamilton Sundstrand, really one of the early leaders in the turboprop field from a propeller system standpoint. And so they really built on that relationship with Hamilton Sundstrand over the years. When Hamilton closed their Long Beach facility here in the US, APS was a natural partner to license that work to and offload it to our facility here in Illinois. And we've really grown from there. That's been a springboard to an ever-growing relationship with Hamilton, now Collins Aerospace. And we really view that as a start of many of the great things that we're doing today.
So you mentioned there a couple of those big names, Hamilton and Collins. But of course, today you are indeed a one-stop shop for props. You're an authorized service center for the major propeller OEMs, and just building up those relationships and those partnerships across the entire industry has been incredibly important to you. So what is the important part of those partnerships with those big OEMs and others across the aviation industry for you today?
Our biggest and most important partnership continues to be with Collins. And back 10 years ago, not quite 10 years ago, when they were looking for a partner to license with the 568F technology, that's the latest propeller system that powers all of the ATR aircraft and the CASA aircraft. APS was a natural choice and a natural partner to license with the proprietary technology associated with the major overhauls on those 568F propeller systems. So we've really used that as a way to grow our business. It fueled our growth into Brazil and acquiring a shop in Brazil. It's continued to help us provide resources for us to invest in the business. We'll be opening a shop here in Southeast Asia later this year to continue to service the ATR fleet. So being a trusted partner with a major OEM like Collins has really been a tremendous asset for APS.
And I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Dan, that over the last few years, one of your real major areas of focus has been on developing APS as the preeminent propeller MRO in the world. So tell us a little bit more about that journey and how that's progressing for you.
Yeah, we absolutely view ourselves as the top destination for propeller MRO in the world outside of the OEM, and we've built off of those relationships with the GA the GA manufacturers and OEMs to expand upwards into the regional turboprops, and now we're very closely aligned, OEM aligned. We're not a PMA shop. We really want to be supportive of the OEMs and mindful of the importance of supplying OEM certified parts, and how important that is to flight safety and making sure that things work as intended. So we view ourselves as an extension of the OEM in the sense that we have the same interests at heart, and when we service our customers and the operators, we're really viewing things from an OEM perspective, because we need to have have that mindset and work together much as they would with the OEMs.
And you've mentioned that in 2016 you expanded into Brazil. You mentioned that you're now looking to expand into Asia, probably later on this year. From your humble roots, I guess, in Illinois 70 years ago, you're now looking at world domination in this particular market. So tell us about the rationale for that expansion out into Asia.
Well, that world domination would be nice. I won't lie. Asia is where all the growth is with the regional turboprops. When you look at the ATR fleet, if you will, and where their growth is coming from, it's all Asia. It's nice that ATR is really the only option these days if you're in the market to order new regional turboprops in that 50 to 90 seat variety. Bombardier is largely out of the market. Others have put their toe in the water and explored developing a brand new platform, but by and large, everyone has taken a pass, and ATR is really the only game in town. And so we view Asia as the next great growth market, especially now that we're coming out of COVID and all the markets, including China and Japan and Korea, are fully reopened. So having a shop in region where we'll be on the ground is critically important, because we need to be close to all our customers, whether they're in Asia or Brazil or North America. So the market growth will be there. We need to be there to service that, and we look at that as being a key linchpin of our future success. Much like Brazil has proven to be a very successful venture. We opened that shop in 2016 to service the Brazil market, which is largely driven by Azul in partnership with ATR, and that's been a success story because it's allowed us to grow our prop capability and demonstrate that we are the natural choice for prop MRO. And we've also branched out and gotten into helo actuation down in Brazil and signed licenses for the AW109 helicopter and for the Airbus helicopters to do main rotor and tail rotor actuators for that market. So it's allowed us to build on our core business and continue to expand and offer additional capabilities to our customers.
So I guess that covers the geographical spread of APS and your plans to expand in different parts of the world. But what about the services and the products that you offer? One of the other areas that you're really looking at is to grow beyond props. And you've certainly done that, looking at things like airframe teardown, about parts trading. You've been looking at developing the MRO capabilities. Where does that go from here?
Well, you're right. We looked a few years ago at the used serviceable material market and decided that was an attractive space to participate in, and saw some of the things that were happening in the broader markets and realized that there was an opportunity to expand off of some of what we knew. So we bought an ATR 42-300 back at the end of 2021 as our first foray into the airframe teardown and parts trading market. And that's an older legacy aircraft. So, it was certainly a good deal, but not a barn burner. Since then, we've purchased an E170 and an E190, both at the end of 2022, which is a much more dynamic segment, much more demand, more growth, more operators. So we're in the process of tearing those airplanes down as we speak and marketing the material. So we view that as a growth vehicle here for the future. In addition, we're very active out buying packages on the market. Coming out of COVID, many operators re-looked at their fleets, their operating positions, their inventory levels, and readjusted. And so there's been a fertile market out there with operators who are looking to pare down their inventory, monetize some of the assets they've had sitting on their shelves. And for us, that's a great opportunity to bring product in, refurbish and overhaul it, and then resell it in the market.
And you've mentioned COVID a few times there, and obviously the industry is still suffering from the COVID hangover. You're talking about your growth, you're talking about your expansion, and APS clearly, like many other aviation companies now, is really starting to see the future and starting to move into the future and enjoy that growth again. But do you think that there are still any big challenges that the industry faces as a result of that COVID hangover, which isn't quite over yet?
I think there's two. The international travel is not fully back. I saw the recent statistic that said at the end of January, global domestic travel was now for the first time back above 2019 levels. So pre-COVID, so back above pre-COVID. International traffic is still, I think, 82 to 85% of the same month pre-COVID. So not quite all the way back internationally. And a lot of that is still Asia and China, particularly coming fully up to speed. So, we're almost there, and it will work itself out here very quickly. We're no longer in this wait and see period. It's just a matter now of how quickly they can operationally get back up to speed. And the second hangover effect is still in the supply chain. So I think we tend to forget that a lot of these supply chains are long and complex. And when you talk about airplanes and propeller systems and airfoils and propeller blades that have things like forgings and cast material, those are not quick things to turn back on. So we fought through a number of supply chain disruptions throughout 2022. They've started to ease, but I would say we're not out of the woods, and we still expect to see disruptions certainly through the first half of 2023, but continuing to mitigate with time.
And you talk there about supply chains, you talk about materials, and of course that brings me on to one of the other very, very big and significant issues that our industry faces, and that's sustainability. So, how does APS play its part in addressing those sustainability issues for aviation?
Again, it's all about working closely with the OEM. So we're hand in hand with them on new directives that come out, new manual updates and changes. When they look at different adhesives, say different materials that are more environmentally friendly, more sustainable, we're certainly on the front line of that, working through the introduction of those and the implementation and understanding how to do that safely and effectively. So making sure, again, we follow their lead and are in lockstep with them on the identification of new materials and the implementation of new materials and processes as they bring them to market. And then closer to home, as we operate our own facility, it's all about being a responsible steward and making sure that we're following industry best practices when it comes to how we operate our businesses, when it comes to identifying waste streams and handling waste streams and handling hazardous materials. And we look at it as just one of our many responsibilities in the industry, right along with safety and quality, is that whole notion of making sure we're following best practices around sustainability and environmental sustainability.
And earlier on in our conversation, Dan, you mentioned the ATRs, and I've told you before that that's one of the aircraft that I actually fly on most right now. And I never really experienced the ATRs until relatively shortly before COVID. But of course, when you start looking at the ATR fleets all around the world, you start looking at some of the major airlines that are currently refurbishing their ATR fleet. You look at Asia, where ATRs are clearly, very much on the up. So your view of the future of ATRs in fleets all around the world, I'm assuming, is incredibly positive. But just tell us, what is your vision for the future for ATRs and other propeller aircraft?
Well, I think you're right. When you look at established markets like Europe with a lot of short haul flights into maybe tighter airstrips, they're a natural choice. When you go to markets like Brazil and many places in Latin America or Southeast Asia, again with maybe remote airstrips with tougher conditions, those are natural growth markets, and ATR has done a very good job of targeting their product to take advantage of those markets. So they've introduced the short takeoff and landing variant here to get into even more markets in those geographies. They did a nice job coming out with a freighter configuration a couple years ago that's now in the US with FedEx as a launch customer, which is really taken off in terms of its adoption and desirability. So we see those new opportunities building on that core product, which is very good. And we're very hopeful that the US and North America, which has been less of a growth market for the ATR, will really rebound on the heels of, as I mentioned, FedEx signing this contract for a bunch of freighters. Amazon is also interested in that freighter configuration and has actually reconfigured a couple ATR 72-500s to get into that market while they're waiting for new production slots to open up. And then we've seen Silver Airways down in Florida place an order for ATRs, the first one in North America in quite a while, and they have now started flying those. And like you said, we feel when people fly the aircraft, they're wowed by it. It's a totally different experience than what people associate maybe a turboprop flight with. It's much different. If you didn't know you were getting on a turboprop aircraft and just sat in the seat and flew from A to B, you wouldn't realize it's a turboprop. So we're very bullish on the opportunities and the markets that ATR and CASA on the military side, the CASA platform, can take advantage of, and excited about the continued future growth.
So I was speaking to the chief executive of a pretty major airline very recently who described the ATRs in his fleet as the workhorse, the aviation workhorse. And you've just talked about there being opportunities, maybe especially in the American market, for more ATRs, more propeller aircraft. Do you expect to see more and more coming off the production line in the future?
Yes, I think so. As there's more success, excuse me, with FedEx on the freight side and with Silver on the passenger side, I think there are those niche markets where there will be more U.S. operators interested, whether it's in Northeast or Pacific Northwest or some of the hub markets in the Midwest. The sustainability aspect of it, it's the fuel efficiency is 40 to 50% higher than jets. The emissions level is 40 to 50% lower than jets. So when you look at it from a holistic approach in terms of operating cost and environmental impact, they're very favorable, and there's a relatively minimal downside, in terms of time. You may be on an hour and a half leg, you lose 5 to 10 minutes, which is no real issue when you consider how much time you lose on either end with taxiing and waiting in line to take off or land. So we see it as a favorable trend here in the U.S.
So I just want to look very quickly to the future of APS and what your vision is and where the company is going. Clearly, your partnerships with the OEMs and developing those even further in the future, developing your own MRO capabilities and all of those other innovations that we've talked about. Just tell us, what's the most important thing for you in terms of the company development in the coming years?
Well, first and foremost is to make sure we maintain our position as a preeminent propeller MRO in the marketplace, and don't lose that. That's what allows us to do everything we aspire to. Second, we want to maintain our alignment with the OEMs, and again, be viewed as a natural extension of the OEMs that have the same customer interests in mind, and look after our customers the same way the OEM would. And then beyond that, we want to use our platform and use our technical capability to broaden our business reach and get involved in additional chapters, if you will, on MRO. So is that landing gear? Is that avionics? Is that interiors? We're actively exploring those now, and get into some of the broader markets we're not in now, and then geographically continue our expansion to build out our global MRO network.
So Dan, one of the things I really get from this conversation is that APS prides itself on the significant relationships that it's been able to build up over its 70-year history. And I know that you have a number of long-term agreements in place with some really significant players. So tell us a little bit about some of that work that you're doing with those organizations.
Well, thank you. We do, and we are very proud of the relationships we have. The two biggest ones are the long-term agreements we signed back shortly after we received the licenses. One with ATR in support of their General Maintenance Agreement Program, the GMA, and then the other one we signed with Airbus Defense to support their GMA offering on the CASA platform. So, very proud that we were able to successfully partner with the two big platform OEMs to be their natural choice for propeller system overhaul. And in addition, outside of the GMA arrangements, we're proud that we have LTAs in place with just about all the major operators around the world. When you think about people like Air New Zealand and the Lion Air Group and Firefly over in Southeast Asia, and then as part of those GMA programs with ATR and Airbus Defense, we support the likes of Azul and the Colombian Air Force. So we just look at it as a natural extension of our business, and in sync with who we are, and the fact that those major customers and OEMs have placed their faith and trust in APS, I think speaks volumes of what we're all about and what we can do.
Okay, Dan, thank you for sharing all of that information about your views on the industry, your views on the future of APS. I've actually got a couple of personal questions I now need to ask, because I always know that the AeroTime viewers always like to know a couple of things. The first one is, what is your favorite aircraft?
Oh, my favorite aircraft. Well, aside from the Gulfstream, when I have the rare opportunity to fly on the G5 or the G6, probably
Nice.
when I don't have a chance to fly on the ATRs very often here in North America. So I'll give the easy answer and say the ATR 72-600 that's out there now with the nice new interior and avionics and luggage bins is really a treat to fly on.
I'm almost tempted to tell you you're not allowed to choose the ATR given your job and your business, but I'll let it go. I'll let it go. I actually know that you have some other favorite aircraft as well. So maybe there might be another one you want to mention.
Another favorite? You mean from my early days? Is that what?
Yes.
Well, I do think back to my first experience of flying in a small plane. This was back in the summer of 1980 in southern Wisconsin. I had the privilege of flying on an old Antonov 2. I wasn't able to really enjoy the flight all that much, though, because I was spending most of my time thinking about the fact that I was about to jump out of the airplane, which I did successfully. So I qualify that as a successful flight. And I will say I went back later that summer and did it again. And the second flight and trip down were a little more enjoyable than the first trip. I was able to breathe the second time and actually enjoy the experience.
And is that, would you put that one down as your favorite aviation experience to date?
I think so. I think so. It ended well. A lot of good scenery along the way, and a good story to tell. So all good things when you talk about memorable aviation experiences.
Well, Dan, I'm glad it ended well. I'm also glad that this interview has gone well, but unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. Dan, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts and your experience and for your vision for APS in the future. That brings us to the end of this interview. My name is Richard Stevenson, and you've been watching AeroTime. Thank you and goodbye.